We're going to call the regular meeting of the Budget and Finance Committee to order. We're going to have two members today. Mr. Smith and Rosenthal are off, and Mr. Koretz is ill. So Mr. Weezer and myself will run through this agenda. Let's start off on the closed session items. If we could move number 3 on consent. It's a workers' comp case that complies with all of the legal requirements. Also on consent, if we could move items 5 through 10, which are the liens dealing with Office of Finance, a little over $200,000 in liens that they're moving forward to council. Also, if we could move item 12 and 14 to on consent.
What about number 11, council member?
Just a minute, Monique. Let me take a breath. Okay.
Just making sure.
Okay. Number 11, we can move on consent. And also, we just asked on number 11 if we could get the CLA and CAO to find out on the Office of Treasury. They held one of those items for 8 months before we received it. If we can find out what the delay is and get those. One was 3 months, one was 8 months. So we can move that with that request. So that would then leave, number 15, if we can continue that and ask the CAO and the CLA to give us a report back on the CDD report. And if we can get that back next meeting. Okay. And so that would leave us the items 1, 2, 3 in closed session, and item 13 and 16 on open session. Did I miss something? 1, 2, 4 would be closed session. All right. So if we can move those items in that direction. Mr. Weezer, being that we only have 2 items, we want to go through item 13 and 16 here, and then we'll clear the room for closed session. So why don't we start with the regular agenda with those remaining items.
Okay, that should take us to item 13 here.
Can we read all that?
Yes.
Okay, item 13. Item 13 is a CEO report relative to the selection of an underwriting team for the 2011 tax and revenue anticipation notes of financing. We submitted a report, actually providing some information to the committee on actually the underwriting team. As you know, the city will be issuing approximately about a $1.4 billion in short-term notes for the 11-12 budget. Due to the uncertainty and volatility in the market, we will issue the trans on a negotiated basis instead of a competitive basis. And we do believe that this is probably the best methodology that will result in the lowest true interest cost to the city, given sort of the number of events that have occurred over the last couple of years, and given sort of the change and, like I said, basically the market conditions. So as part of the team, we've selected 4 firms, and these are J.P. Morgan, De La Rosa, Citigroup, and Loop Capital. Now, we did send out an RFP to 13 firms that are on the qualified list. We did have 12 respond. And part of that RFP, the firms were requested to submit information on sort of their experience, their marketing strategy for the trans, some of their capabilities, some alternative financing options, and also their fees. And with the selection team of our financial advisors and CEO staff, we did review all the information and spoke with the firms, and we did select these 4 firms to be part of the team. And I want to sort of, if I may, just go over 5 really some key points as part of the collective team and why they were selected. First one being their experience in the California market. Certainly, LA, we're here on the West Coast. There's basically, you have two big markets, the West Coast and sort of the East Coast. We wanted to make sure we had experience for those folks who actually had experience here with the California debt market. Also, we selected firms who had a very extensive investor outreach program. As you know, as part of going with the negotiated deal, we wanted to make sure we had appropriate outreach to investors. Given sort of the concerns with the city over the last couple of years, we want to make sure we get the right message out there and we reach all of the investors that we can in order to sell the notes. We're also looking for, as part of the team, to make sure we had a very strong institutional and actually retail desk as well. We also, I think as part of this team, we do have a potential alternative to the traditional trends, and we're sort of explore that with the firms. And then lastly, what was very,
Last one, Ray?
it was basically some alternatives to the traditional trends. And so with the team, we are looking at a potential alternative as perhaps as part of the overall deal. And then lastly, which was certainly very important last year, we want to make sure that the team has sufficient capital in order to purchase the notes if necessary. And this goes back to last year. Last year with the May and June maturities, we had a little bit of difficulty selling them. And so JP stepped in and basically purchased those, and that was over $250 million last year. So.
Okay. Let me just ask you a couple of questions. Is that, could you just give us rationale for the selection of at least two of these firms we're currently in litigation with, and why they're on the list?
So yes, there are potential litigation with some of these firms. These are the big ones. And I know there's been certainly concern about why are we going to or using some of these firms when there is that potential litigation. The reason it really goes back to the last last criteria that I mentioned as far as the team, and that is the potential, the capital that these large firms bring to the market and actually help us if necessary. We have trouble selling. We want to make sure that we have folks that are part of the team that have capital to actually purchase the notes if necessary. We are trying to make sure we can get the lowest cost to the city, and by doing so, the team is a mix, some larger firms and some small firms, and having the capital ability is a big piece of that.
Okay, and then the other question is that on the issue of, although De La Rosa has had experience at the state level, has not been a part of any of our trans locally, yet we've had Loop as part of the last 2 years, and just a rationale as to why De La Rosa would be the co-senior manager.
So part of that is two reasons. One is actually their desks. They do have desks here on the West Coast where they can reach out to the various investors. The second piece, it goes back to, given the message, or I shouldn't say the message, given the news over the last couple of years, we want to make sure that we can really reach out to investors both on the East Coast and the West Coast. And by actually including De La Rosa, we believe that we can really reach out to some of those investors that are, say, in the Bay Area, and we really looking forward to their marketing strategy and their ability to reach out to some of those investors here on the West Coast.
Okay. And the list that we picked from is the old list, it's not the current RFP that's coming out?
That is correct. This is, that RFP is still in process, and so we went off the current list.
Okay. My final thing, if we could just make sure that the chart that you've created for us on a previous request, if we could just add an updated chart to each time we do a transaction, it will save a lot of questions as to who we're doing business with and things of that nature.
Sure.
Okay, thank
We
you.
will do.
No questions. We'll move that item with those recommendations and requests.
Okay. All right, so the next item is item 16. Item 16 is the CO report relative to the fourth construction project report for fiscal year 2010-11.
Hello, good afternoon. Alma Gibson with the CAO's office. This is our fourth and last construction projects report for the year, for the current year. As you know, these report basically consist of mainly financial transactions for the various construction projects or capital projects that are occurring throughout the city. And they include reimbursements to various city departments from either general obligation bonds, nickel financings, and the CIEP. Of the total $9.4 million in transfers and appropriations in this report, we have approximately $353,000 in staff cost reimbursements for work on Prop F, Fire and Animal Fire and Animal Facilities Bond Program, and also Prop Q Public Safety Bond Program. And this money represents increases to the original appropriations that were provided in the beginning of the fiscal year. Basically, they're based on revised estimates based on the actual cost to dates by staff's reimbursements. And as you know, the positions for these programs have been authorized via resolution, and again, these positions are necessary in order to provide services for these programs. The additional $6.8 million is recommended for appropriations to GSB to perform construction work on various projects throughout the city. And I'll just highlight a couple, and basically we're recommending about $423,000 to go to CRA projects for asset management, construction, and building maintenance work. Excuse me. And then also we're including about $200,000 for deferred maintenance work at various city departments, which also includes about $600,000 for hazardous material basement work at various city departments again. And then also we're recommending funds for SID Tech Lab construction work, as well as the Mental Detention Center for tenant improvements. We're also recommending monies for the Public Works Building tenant improvements for both Bureau of Sanitation and LAPD. And finally, we're recommending some appropriations for shortfalls for funding various RAP projects from the Sites and Facilities Fund. And basically, those are the main ones I wanted to highlight. We do have representatives who could speak on more detail regarding some of the programs that we've highlighted in this report. And we do like to request that this report be submitted forthwith to the controllers in order to make the controllers' year-end deadline for processing.
Say that last sentence again.
We'd like to request that this report be submitted forthwith to the controller's office so that all the transactions could be completed before the year-end closing.
Okay. As far as it goes to council and then directed to the controller?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do we have a placeholder for the
Sorry.
council?
Not yet. Can we?
So you said send the request,
Okay,
a written request.
cool.
So we can get that done this week?
I will.
Okay, I will go there. Let me just ask two quick questions.
Sure.
In the, you anticipate about $400,000 general fund costs for operation maintenance. Is that already in the 10-11 or 11-12 budget, or are we searching for that?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Your comment is it's anticipated about $433,000 in general fund costs for operations and maintenance, and I'm just wondering, has that been included in the current year budget or the adopted 11-12 budget?
These are this impact is for recreation and park projects, so it would be an impact to the recreation and parks budget, but they wouldn't be effective next year. The parks won't be completed for about 2 years.
So it's about 2 years down the line?
Right.
Okay. And then let me just ask, this is on page 13, where you deal with, because we're trying to track one thing, where you're dealing with Prop 2 funds. Are those the funds expected to come out of the sale of the 60th and Western property? Okay, I just want to, because we're trying to make sure that money gets to the Prop 2, and so we're just trying to find out if that's the money or whether that's still pending.
No, the monies that are related to the South LA Annex are part of Phase 2 of the Prop F program, and this staff reimbursement is for Phase 1.
Okay, so the purchase of that land at 60th to repay the Prop 2 bond has not come to you yet?
Okay, the original, the $4 million that was reimbursed many years ago, that money is in Prop F, and it's part of the Phase 2 work.
Okay. What about the...
But it hasn't been programmed yet.
In the last several years, we've been going through CRA and purchasing the 60th and Western property to replace?
We have not spent that.
Have not, but have you
We
got
haven't
it?
received the check
Haven't
yet,
gotten it.
actually.
Okay, that's what we wanted to find out.
Right, no, but I understand that CDD and CRA were able to work out the issues they had with HUD, and we are following up on
Very-
receiving
that's
that
what I
money.
wanted. Find out if we've, because they tell us it's in process for the last several years, so we're just trying to see if.
I think about 2 weeks ago, they got final resolution on it, so we should be receiving the money this fiscal year.
Very good. All right, thank you. Thank you, we'll move that. Thank you
you.
very much. We just have the closed session items.
Yep, we'll have 3 items. We're just going to stay here?
Do we have to say anything?
2 o'clock?
Okay, is that, we're adjourned. I just realized, I don't think we adjourned the final budget meeting. Should I do that now too?
I could actually get some work done on that.
I don't want to go back to that.